Hi, I'm Stuart Flint from Flint Analytics. Now this video is part of a series of videos I'm doing on the tips and tricks and insights that I use on a day-to-day basis. So I want to share with you some insight I got after looking back at one of the odd things that I used to do in playing a computer game in my youth. So as a teenager and at university, I was addicted to a game called Football Manager. And the game really immerses yourself in the life of being a football manager. And it does that mainly through imagination. The game that I was playing at that age, whilst it's developed graphically, at that time it was just text and numbers and very little in terms of graphics or anything. So it was really about your own imagination, and as part of that, I used to do this really odd thing where, well, I thought it was odd. You probably think it's odd too. My wife does. Where I'd interview myself, whether on the toilet or having a shower or going and get a cup of tea, where I'd interview myself about the last game or games coming up or how the season had gone and those sorts of things. And I heard a podcast with one of the developers of the game where he talked about this thing that people did where they would interview themselves, and so I wasn't alone. And there were a lot of people who would do that. So the developers thought they'd put that in the game and allow you to field questions from journalists and provide one of I guess 5 multiple choice answers. And they gave people the ability to I guess skip it and not take that part of the game. And when they analysed it, they realised that people weren't doing it, and so there was a disconnect between what people wanted to do and what they wanted to do actually in the game. And thinking that through, I think it's one of creativity. It's a very creative thing to be able to formulate your own questions to ask yourself. And I did something a few years ago which talked about how the brain works, and as part of that, it did actually go into the fact that when you ask your brain a question, or when your brain is asked a question, it has to respond. It's just how it's made. And so effectively, you are asking your brain questions, and the questions I used to ask used to be like, are you getting enough out of player X or player Y? And then I think about options and different formations I might want to try, and maybe about whether I need to be defensive in the next game and those sorts of things. And having heard that podcast and having thought about that, I realised it was a really good way of actually getting a bit more creative about problem solving. And so it's something I've been using over the last year or two to actually think about some of the challenges I've got, and I guess interview myself, whether as a third party, as a newspaper, to sort of say, okay, well, what do I think about this? And I guess help me realise areas I need to do more thinking about. But you could also take the role of a peer or a boss and say, okay, you've got this due date coming up. How are you feeling about it? Where are your challenges? Any question that you can think of, your brain will start to I guess provide answers, and you could actually find a lot out about how you subconsciously are feeling about whatever the subject, whatever question you decide to ask yourself. So that's a little tip. Really interested to hear anybody who tried it, who goes and tries it now, and it'd be great to see what you come up with.